15 Most Bizarre Real Cases of Temporary Amnesia, Part 2.
If you are brand new to our channel, we invite you to take a moment to subscribe. Just click on the lit red button as well as the gray bell. Why the bell? Well, it will let you know every time we post a new video.
9. Benjamin Kyle. In August 2004, Benjamin Kyle was found naked and beaten in a Burger King parking lot. He'd suffered blunt force trauma to the head. He was taken to hospital, but was unable to identify who he was, and he didn't have any identification with him. The only thing he remembered was that his first name was Benjamin. He even remembered how to perform general tasks such as driving, but not much else. He was eventually diagnosed with dissociative amnesia 3 years after he was found. His case is even rarer than others, in that he's listed as a missing person despite his physical whereabouts being known. He's appeared on various news outlets and TV shows over the years. Because he doesn't remember his social security number, he's been unable to work. He survived thanks to the generosity of helpful strangers. In 2015, a genealogist was able to help him find his real identity. However, he chose to keep this information private out of respect for his family. 10. Michael Boatwright. In 2013, Michael Boatwright was found unconscious in a motel room in Palm Springs. When he awoke in hospital, he had no idea who he was. Hospital staff were able to determine his identity with the help of his American passport, which was found with his belongings. He was a Vietnam veteran who had supposedly left Florida to start over in Palm Springs. Boatwright was there for only a few days when he lapsed into a fugue state. What makes his case bizarre is the fact that he was only able to speak Swedish when he woke up. At the time, Boatwright said his name was Johannet. He was later diagnosed as suffering from 2 types of amnesia. One where patients don't know who they are, and another where they don't know where they are. Together they're called transient global amnesia in a fugue state. Further research found that he'd lived in Sweden as a child, which would explain his fluency in the language. He eventually relocated to Sweden, but passed away a year after the ordeal started. He never regained his memory. 11. Naomi Jacobs. Naomi Jacobs had a very traumatic childhood. She'd been abused and turned to drugs at an early age. By the time she was 29, she'd lost her home, car, business, and life savings. She was also diagnosed, incorrectly, with bipolar disorder. Then in 2008 she awoke one morning fully believing it was 1992. It's likely this episode was brought on by her stressful life circumstances. As a result, she couldn't remember any part of her current life. She'd lost memories of the last 17 years of her life. She didn't even remember her 11-year-old son, but found comfort spending time with him, her younger sister and a close friend. In total, her dissociative fugue lasted for 8 weeks. During this time, she reconnected with her childhood passion of writing. She eventually wrote a book about her experience. She even went on to write screenplays. She's enjoyed celebrity status since the book was published due to reader interest and curiosity about her story. A movie about her experience is also in development. 12. Ansel Bourne. In 1887, Ansel Bourne was a preacher living in Rhode Island. He's thought to be the earliest known sufferer of this rare disorder. He's also thought to have had multiple personalities. Things took a turn for the worse while he was traveling to Providence, Rhode Island. He suddenly lost his memory. To cope with the confusion he was experiencing, he created a new identity. He called himself A.J. Brown by opening up a store in Pennsylvania and moved in with a family. Then one day, 2 months after arriving in Orriston, Pennsylvania, he mysteriously woke up from his fugue state. He remembered his original identity and had no memory of how he'd ended up in a different state. Doctors were quick to try to find out what happened. Under hypnosis they were able to talk to both Bourne and Brown. Curiously enough, neither personality was aware of the existence of the other one. Some speculate that his name, Bourne, was used as inspiration for the Jason Bourne character in the 13. Jeffrey Allen Ingram. Prior to 2006, Jeffrey Ingram had suffered from short bouts of temporary amnesia. At one point, he disappeared for 9 months. These episodes were brought on by extreme levels of stress. In 2006 he was dealing with stress related to a friend's cancer diagnosis and subsequent treatment. His friend was dying from the disease. Ingram was on his way to visit when he disappeared. He was last seen heading to his future mother-in-law's house on September 6th, but the next thing he was aware of was the fact that it was September 10 and he had no idea of where he was. He was still in Denver. Ingram wandered for hours not sure of who he was or what he was supposed to be doing. It wasn't until he appeared on the evening news that his fiancée was able to identify him. At that point, he still hadn't regained his full memory. They eventually got married, but Ingram had another relapse and is now unable to remember their wedding. 14. Hannah Emily Upp. Hannah Emily Upp was a 23-year-old teacher in New York when she disappeared during a jog on August 28, 2008. She didn't have her wallet, cell phone or any form of ID with her. It would be 3 weeks before she was found. She was eventually discovered floating face down in the harbor off of Manhattan Island. She was only wearing a pair of red running shorts and a black sports bra at the time. Hannah had no recollection of where she'd been or what she'd done during the 3 weeks she was missing. To her it felt like 10 minutes had passed from when she went jogging to when she woke up in the hospital. She'd apparently walked a lot because she developed a large blister on her foot, the only sign of trauma during her absence. There were a few clues that turned up during the investigation. She was spotted at an Apple store checking her email, at a Starbucks and a few sports clubs. There weren't any other clues as to how she survived for so long without money for food. As a recent college graduate teaching Spanish and studying for a master's degree, she may have been overwhelmed by the pressures in her life. With the help of police and doctors, she's been able to piece together bits of where she was during those 3 weeks. Bit 15. Agatha Christie. One of the most well-known cases of dissociative fugue is that of the mystery writer, Agatha Christie. On December 3, 1926 she disappeared from her home in Berkshire, England. She may have been experiencing stress related to the recent death of her mother, with whom she was very close, and her husband's affair. Prior to her disappearance, she left a series of disturbing letters addressed to family members and friends. Shortly after this discovery, her abandoned car was found close to a lake she'd written about in one of her novels. All of her personal belongings were still inside, her packed suitcase, ID and coat. Everyone feared the worst, but an extensive search of the lake didn't turn up a body. It was eventually discovered that she'd checked into a health spa, probably similar to a rehab facility, using the name Teresa Neal. Coincidentally, her husband's mistress's name was Nancy Neal. She was there for 11 days before her true identity was discovered. She never talked about this time in her life, so no one knows for sure what happened to her.